Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
All right, it's Tuesday. Wow, that was a little bit too in there. By the way, I'm sorry for not creating the live stream early like I usually do. Oh, there we go. Octavius, Belligerent, Apol. You guys found it. You're fast. It's all good. Let's go and look at the charts here. See how we are faring. This is turned into an odd market, I think. So the big news yesterday was that maybe Donald Trump isn't going to do across-the-board tariffs and just only do targeted tariffs on select goods that are deemed important to national security. Well, the market kind of liked that, and then Donald Trump came out and said, no, that's not true. And we had this big fall here. But it didn't actually go that far, really. And what I'm seeing this morning is some analysts don't believe him. Some analysts believe the Washington Post and not Donald Trump. They're like, where there's smoke, there's fire. And you know what? Well, on one hand, I'm kind of like, I don't see why Donald Trump would deny something like that if it's true. But then on the other hand, like, it wouldn't be the first time that he's done that. Where like they denied, and then that is what they end up doing. So who knows? It seems to me that the market is a little bit skeptical about whether or not he'll actually do the tariffs. And that, I think, is entirely justified because across the board tariffs, I'm not even sure if you can actually practically do it. But we'll see. 2 weeks. Before the inaugurations, here's the S&P 500, and so yesterday they fared pretty okay. We still haven't retraced this big fall from the last Federal Reserve meeting, but, you know, it's doing okay. A little bit of a pull, you know, they kind of gave up some of those gains, but it's okay overnight. Could maybe make something out of that. Oil starting to get a little volatile here at the top, so when it starts to do that, that kind of makes me think that that bit of trend is perhaps over. Okay. Technical analysis on a daily basis. Okay. Gold and silver, they look like they are recovering some of their losses actually this morning. And copper is continuing through. So while I'm not necessarily seeing it in the treasuries, some of these kinds of signs that like the market is rethinking the macroeconomic environment at the beginning of the Donald Trump term. Here's the Japanese yen. Well, they had a pretty good jump off of their central bank comments, but that looks like that got traced back. So they've kind of fallen back. But the dollar, on the other hand, has not retraced back up to 109. They are still below 108. So it looks like some of the other currencies have strengthened. And Bitcoin did make a push yesterday, made it above 100,000. I don't know if it's Michael Saylor related or what, but whatever. All right, so back over here. Brad, what do you got for me? MIT, huh? Commonwealth Fusion Systems unveils plans for the world's first fusion. Oh, that was the link that you were talking about yesterday. I gotcha. By the way, I'm having a hard time remembering your name on. Oh yeah, you're Brad on Discord too. That's right. You changed it over here, dude. So a story for you. So like, I think it was Saturday night. We were messaging on Discord, and because he was asking me about R2. Yeah. He was messaging me about R2, and then I was going into Rust and things like that. because I kind of want to make my own platform. I kind of think that the optimal choice might be Rust, but my concern is the GUI development side of it. Everything that I've heard is that like Rust GUI development is just not there. Some of the problems maybe stem from fundamental issues in the language. Some of the problems might stem just from the GUI frameworks not being mature enough. But so I'm kind of sitting here like, do I really want to tie myself to Rust to make a trading platform? I don't know. Like, what are your other choices going to be? C++, I guess. I don't know. Anyways. And then I just, like, completely, like, went dead. Like, I don't know if Brad noticed, but I'm just like, I stopped messaging, right? So what happened was, my son, if you're eating something, you might want to turn the stream off at this point, okay? Or just mute it for a little bit, okay? My autistic 4-year-old son comes over to me with like this brown stuff on my arm, and I'm like, oh wait, what the heck? Did he find the Nutella or something? No, that is not Nutella. That does not smell like Nutella. Nope, man. He had the craziest blowout I have ever seen. He got it all over that chair, so we had to deep clean the chair. I don't know how he avoided not getting it on anything else, but it was just like twice as much crap as that diaper could hold. Oh my god. And I spent the rest of the night cleaning, and that is why I stopped. That's why I kind of like went dead, and it seemed like maybe I was ignoring you, Brad. That's what happened. So do it in Go. Well, but what is Go GUI development like? No worries. Yeah. Oh, by the way, that reminds me. While I'm thinking about it, Degenerate Gambler did start trading yesterday, and it was so absolutely terrible. So the difference between Degenerate Gambler 4 was that we had different periods for the long side and the short side. And basically what it ended up doing is, like, on the long side, it picked a really short period, and on the short period, it picked a really long period. So that, to me, is, I think, overfitting. I wanted to do it because it did amp the profits up, but now that I've done it, I'm kind of like, nah. I think we should go back to 1 or 2. I don't remember. What's the difference between 1 and 2, though? Let me come in here really quick and let's pull up the code and check them out. I'll show you guys, though. I'm trying to be open with this particular one. I don't think that it's necessarily a strategy that you want to trade, but it is kind of a fun strategy. So what's the difference between these two suckers here? Press above is rising. Actually, let's just move this to a new window. Are these the same? Rising. RT filter. Oh, I see. This was trying to sort out if there was better, correct, like, this was basically doing a little bit of optimization to say, can you decide to go with or against the trend based on what R2 is. Yeah. And what was 3? Three is taking that out. But perhaps no. It's using time. Is 3 just using volatility stuff? or is 3 using a super smoother? Yeah, 3 is using a super smoother. Or oh, okay. 4 is setting a completely different set of things for if R2 is increasing or decreasing. That's right. Okay. So the simplest one, well, the one that I probably want to use is 3. But let me come back to my strategy analyzer here. Hopefully I didn't delete all of the backtests on them. Yeah, C3 was the one that was working, that had the largest profit. That was the one with the super smoother. Well, 4 is actually even bigger, but what did I say 4 was? 4 was changing based on whether R2 is rising or falling. Okay. Oh, wait. I am using 4? But I thought that I added 5 yesterday. Oh, maybe it didn't save. No, it definitely saved it afterwards. Okay, I don't know. But as long as it doesn't have the long trend and the short trend. Oh, wait. Degenerate Gambler 4 does have the long trend and the short trend? 4-year short, 4-year long. Yeah, we don't want that one. But does 3 have? Does. So we want 3. Yeah. So we're going to remove that one. We may add 3. Enabled. Okay. And on this part here, I'll make sure that we have enough days on it. Yeah, okay. And when we were backtesting 3, the parameters that we saved, the FP period, 4-year period of 10. Oh, okay. Because for these ones, like 2, I think that the period was much higher, right? 20. Yeah. 20. 20, I think, kind of makes a little bit more sense to me. I'm going to leave it that way. Because it will take more trades. It'll be more exciting. We'll stick with 3 for now. Apal says, still no power yet. Hopefully today they'll get back on. We got upgraded to disaster, so they called the cavalry in, thousands of electric company trucks fixing all. Oh, I bet that, yeah. Oof. You know, we a while ago here, we had a really, really bad windstorm that, you know, they had to declare things a disaster area. And I remember it being like a day. Yeah. Day or two for them to fix it. Oh, it wasn't that long ago. Kind of reminds me of the whole thing that like the day that I got laid off, they didn't have any power. So like the power just came on and I was running around the house, you know, checking on everything and setting everything back up. And meanwhile, they're like messaging me super aggressively, like, where are you? Da, 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 da. I was like, what the fuck? Yeah. Anyways, I was kind of blindsided. Yeah, see, okay, so that's what I was gonna say next, Brad, was the Primogen was talking about yesterday about like, oh, I just don't want to write Rust. But like, okay, so I think there's kind of like a few sides to this though that like about the, I don't know, like what, I want to use the word psychology for some reason, but I don't think that psychology works in it. But it's basically like, what is it like writing in a certain language, right? So when you're writing in C#, it's almostly entirely just like the logic of the thing. It's just, you know, if statements and working with data structures, and you don't really have to mess with a whole lot else, right? When you're writing C++, there's all of this extra complexity around managing the memory, and managing the memory gets really, really complicated, right? So Rust has kind of forced you to use certain best practices, I guess you could say, to manage memory, essentially, okay? So I think what the Primogen is saying here is that he just doesn't like the convoluted things that you sometimes have to go through in order to make things work in Rust with their memory management rules. Fair enough. But he also talks about liking C. In C, there's a lot of like, you're really dealing with things on like the lowest level, and you're like shifting bits and things like that. So it seems like he likes that part of the low level programming, but he doesn't like the Rust way of dealing with memory management, right? So when he says, I will not write Rust again, that's kind of to me is like, okay, I think that he likes Go because he's more familiar with it. And probably because of the type of project that he's doing and everything like that. But it wouldn't surprise me if 3 to 6 months from now, right, that he comes back and he's writing stuff in Rust again. Because he was like, you know, he did Rust for like a year or something like that, right? Okay, cool. I actually commented on that video. I said, at what point does he just give in and make his own language? I do kind of wonder if that's like where the Primogen is headed, is like make your own language, right? But, you know, from my perspective on Rust, I'm kind of like, well, you know, it's really about memory safety, and they do allow you to write unsafe Rust code. So yeah, there's some things that are annoying about it and everything, but like you just kind of accept and deal with those things. And the people that are writing Rust, you know, they just deal with it, you know? And to them it's not really a negative, you know? Because they've already kind of like embraced the language per se, you know? But the problem is that it seems to me like the primary use case for a language like that doesn't work very well. Like it seems like if I want to write my own video editor, like if I want to compete with DaVinci Resolve, or I want to compete with Photoshop, or I want to make a video game, everybody uses C++. Like all of that stuff is done in C++. And while the language itself, like the syntax itself is okay and everything, like the C++ ecosystem is just nightmare fuel stuff. it's really bad, right? And you know, Rust solves all of those problems. The package manager, the testing framework, all of that stuff is built in and works and is, you know, built into the language, and like the tight integration with the language is like a huge plus. It really is a huge plus, okay? But you know, it doesn't do GUIs very well from what I've seen, from what I'm reading. It doesn't do GUIs very well. Rust doesn't do the GUIs very well. So it's like the one thing that I would think that people would want to use it for, it's not actually good for it. Do you know that like what people are actually doing with Rust is writing back-end web applications? Which is exactly the thing that Golang is good at. I'm kind of sitting here, I'm not sure I understand why I would want, if I was writing a web backend, why I would write it with Rust instead of Golang. Kind of seems to me like that's what Golang was really built for, and that Golang is really, really good at it. I don't know. But then I'm even seeing some things from like people at Google saying that they're using Rust in some instances. So apparently there is some sort of advantage to it. I don't know. Do a web. Well, I don't know what I would make as a web GUI with a Rust backend. But yeah. Oh, sorry. I misread what you were saying there. What's this other link that you got here? Oh, YouTube had recommended that one to me, and I did not watch it. Because I'm like, oh, I'm not really interested in ARM PCs, but okay. I'm interested in making a desktop trading application. I don't want to make it a web application. I want to make a desktop web application. And I guess I could do it in C#, because that's like what I'm most familiar with, and C# has pretty good GUI stuff. But it really seems to me that what I should be doing is, well, you know, there is some pretty good integration between Rust and Python. I don't know if there's good integration between Go and Python. So I think that I'm still leaning towards using Rust. And I have been doing like a lot of work with trying to learn Rust. Still trying to memorize the syntax, so I kind of like have to look everything up. But I don't know. You can do a pretty good UI and yeah, but then it wouldn't be very performant. Basically, what I want to have is I want a trading platform that is extremely fast and secure for the actual trading part. And then I can use Python to do all of the custom indicators and strategies. Basically, I want something like NinjaTrader, but less of a memory hog. More performant, less of a memory hog. And I use Python instead of C# for writing strategies. Fast backtesting. Well, I wonder how much if you were using something performant like Rust, would it really increase backtesting times? I'm not so sure. I have read about there are ways, so I don't 100% understand how they do this. I think that you kind of have to write your strategy in a different way. Like there's ways to write your strategy in like a vectorized form. And once you have a strategy that can be vectorized, then you can run it on the GPU, and then the backtesting is blazingly fast. So there's that. But see, if you had all of the methods for working between the Python and the trading system, I mean, you can use a socket. Like if you have to, you can use a socket. We could write that for NinjaTrader and you know, have all of that stuff working as well. It's just that at that point, if you're like making your own ecosystem, why wouldn't you just make it your own whole tool so that you own the whole ecosystem, right? So if I made my own platform, I think that I would focus on the DOM last. Because to be honest, I have really no interest in duplicating the Jigsaw DOM. You know? Like I think that ideally my platform would use well, and I don't know if this will actually be possible, but ideally it would use Rhythmic's R mode. I don't know, maybe you can't do that because it's C#, right? But with the C# framework and CLR framework and all of that, and like Rust and C++ cross compatibility, and I might be able to make that work. But ideally, I would, replace NinjaTrader with my platform and still use Jigsaw at first. Because the DOM, it's a big project, and Jigsaw's DOM is very effective and performant, and that's not easy to pull off, especially you doing everything yourself from scratch. How many millions? Not enough. It's a pipe dream. The idea. Oh, by the way, that reminds me. Let me pull this up. I can't even remember the name of the freaking thing now. Hold on. Maybe you guys can test something for me here. There we go. So try this for me. I'll give you guys a link here in chat. So I have set up an affiliate program. So the indicator package that we got is $200 now. It's still cheap relative to, the other NinjaTrader indicators out there, because got some where they're selling $300 just for like one indicator, and I have indicators that I think are more complicated than those indicators that are selling for $300. But we needed to increase the price of it so that we can grow the business, I guess you could say. So I want to spend half of the money, at least initially here, on the marketing efforts, essentially. So I've created an affiliate program. So for you guys, if you're like, you come in and you're like, oh, $200 is too much. $100 was okay, but $200 was too much. Well, what you do is you buy it for $200, and then you sign up for the affiliate program, and you get somebody else to buy it, and then you get $100 commission on it. And then it's like it was $100. If you bring two people in, then it's free. Huh? Right? So tell me if you can, even if you're not sure you're going to use it, try using that link and tell me if you can sign up for it and everything. I haven't been able to, like, the thing is, you know, you have to go through and like buy the product with the affiliate link. And I was like, I don't know, I'm not going to do that. So I haven't tested like the whole workflow to confirm that it works, but everything looks like it's in place. So I think it should work. So you can try that. The idea is to build the business up, because it seems to me like there are people out there that like their whole business is just selling indicators, you know, and I think that I've got a better setup than some of these other competitors. So, you know, I need to just grow. I need to, you know, get more people aware of it and all of those things. And then when I've got that going, then I would be able to use that income stream to develop my own platform. That's the idea. Otherwise, yeah, I would need like somebody to invest millions of dollars. And like that's the whole thing, is like, okay, are the problems with Rust and GUI development really inherent to Rust itself? Or is it just that you haven't had enough money into it? That if there was really a lot of corporations doing GUI development with Rust, that the ecosystem would be more up to snuff. They would put their contributions back out and everything, and you'll need to sell a lot of your, yeah. Well, so frankly, I think that it is realistic to sell 100 a month. I think it's realistic to sell 100 of my indicator package a month. Like, from the numbers that I was looking at, like how many people are in the NinjaTrader ecosystem and all of that sort of stuff. And if I could get, you know, even a small smidgen of that a month, I do think that you could, that we could sell 100 a month. But that would be like the top, right? Okay, Steven says that he was able to sign up. Okay. Oh, so then I should be able to come in here and see. Yes, I can see it. Very good. Now we just need to find somebody to buy the indicator suite with your affiliate link. Paul says that the link doesn't work. No, the indicators themselves, just go to speculatorseth.com. The link that I gave you there is just to sign up for the affiliate program. Now that is interesting that it doesn't work from your mobile phone. Yeah, it may just be your side, for sure. Well, one person was able to do it, so I think that's satisfied what we want to see for now, right? We'll see where it goes. It might just be like one or two people sign up and then nobody ever gets an affiliate link. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But I put a lot of work into the indicator page. Oh, by the way, did I did put the new version up, didn't I? Maybe not. I probably did not update that. Yeah, I did not. But the one that I had created is the new one. Is where we want to go with it. So let's put that up there. Treasury's on the higher end of the range. It's not yet really screaming to me that like anything's going. I'm not sure that we're really gonna do anything until JOLTS and ISM services. So we got an hour. All right. Let me just double check here. Oh, you know what? I need to just package it again. We fixed one other little issue that's in the 3321. So we're going to make 3322. I guess I'll include the fair value gap in this one too. Oh, companion. I forgot about the companion indicator. Oh, and I'm still using it. Cool. I have found that one useful. Not include the few watt bands one though. I don't think that one's quite ready. Need to test that one more and so on and so forth. Oh, is it time for my thing to... We'll have to look into... So there was this whole thing, the software that you use to, like, protect the assembly to make it difficult for people to look at the code and everything. They were like, oh, you need to, like, unsubscribe from it or whatever. I was like, oh, okay. But I think that also meant that I need to buy it again. I didn't do that. So I can't export it right now. Okay. But I need to do that. I'll just add that to my list. I'll leave that one like that. Uzi says slow start to the year. I don't know. I like. It felt like yesterday was an okay day, but usually it's not. Usually, like that, like the best trading of the year, where I tend to do really, really well and we get relatively large moves, usually doesn't happen until after the first non-farms, which happens next Friday this time. So I don't know how that's going to work out this one. I think that you're probably going to get some really significant volatility after the PMI and jolts at the top of the hour, right? So it's probably it may be, you know, decreased volatility today because pretty significant news coming up, right? Otherwise, maybe we would be relatively active because it seems to me like the market is still trading off of this whole, yeah. Oh yeah, market closures. Are we actually closing the market for the National Day of Mourning? Are we? Dude, the Jimmy Carter dying thing. First of all, I mean, he was a good guy. Sad to see him go. But there's been so much interesting discourse over it, man. It's really weird to me to watch leftists try and be like, oh, no, Jimmy Carter was totally a great president, and it was just the evil capitalists that screwed over his presidency and all of this sort of stuff. Okay. Never seen, I you know, it's a controversial history, I guess, that it was not the same when other presidents died. You have no input on Jimmy Carter. Oh, jeez. Jimmy Carter was before your time, yeah? You weren't alive? Oh, well, I mean, no, I wasn't alive, but like, your parents never talk. I guess I have weird parents. So I remember my parents talking about Jimmy Carter. like the thing is, some of my earliest memories were of like my parents explaining what was going on with Desert Storm, because they were watching all of the news about Desert Storm on the nightly news, and they were, during that time in particular, they watched it every day, and that was the only TV. So like I knew what was going on from like 5. You're talking about somebody that's been like kind of been following the news since 1990 essentially. And it's not that my parents were political, is just that they watched the news. They knew what was going on. And yeah, they really liked Reagan, and they really did not like Jimmy Carter. Yeah, my mother complains that she had to wait in line for hours to get a tank of gas. The thing that I think is so weird, so like you really have to think about where we are politically in the world today relative to what it's been in the past 50 years, right? Because what essentially happened was FDR was president during World War II, and they kind of like set up a regime after they won World War II. They really set up a world system that was really beneficial to the United States. And then, you know, they kind of shifted it in the 70s, and it's kind of led us to some this globalized world that we have today. And that is largely a product of the left. I think that a lot, especially millennials, that we don't understand how much of a stranglehold the left has had on Western society, because when we grew up and gained political consciousness, it was in the era of George Bush. And so in the minds of a lot of millennials, it's like, oh, like the establishment is George Bush and those ninnies over there, that rich country club Republicans that don't want us to have sex. That's what a lot of millennials' conception of the right and conservatives are. And conservatives are the establishment. They don't realize that by and large, the left has been in power and has dominated global policy for the last 50 to 70 years, right? So when you start to look at that, and what did the left give us? And there was two presidents in particular that really did a lot of damage. Well, Woodrow Wilson is one, but that one's like that one's so far back. I don't know. Is Social Security a bad thing? I kind of feel like that you kind of need it, but I digress. It was LBJ. It was LBJ and Carter. LBJ was the one that came in and was like, well, I need to prosecute my war, so you're not going to raise the interest rates, when the Federal Reserve needed to do it. So all of that inflation back then in the 70s, 100% LBJ's fault. 100% his fault. It's so weird to me when people go back through the history and they're like, oh, well, there was this resurgence in the inflation and it could happen again. Well, yeah, the reason that they had that resurgence was because of LBJ. So it's not really a good comparison for today that like there'd be another, unless Donald Trump tells the Federal Reserve to keep interest rates low when they need to go higher. But whatever. And then Carter, man, he really screwed things up. We'll look at the timeline of widening income discrepancy from the classes. Do you think it's a coincidence that it started under the... So it's certainly not a coincidence. However, I'm not so sure that it's explicitly Reagan's fault. So let me explain to you why and what I think actually happened, okay? Because what the left will tell you is, well, in the 80s, Ronald Reagan came in and reduced all of the taxes on corporations and rich people. And that's ever since then, we've been having this widening income gap. I think that that's an incorrect reading of what happened. When you look at tax policy, generally speaking, people kind of will avoid taxes. And there's like a certain amount of tax that's kind of like, I'm not going to say like the optimal amount of tax, but like where things kind of settle. So when you look at, back in the 60s compared to in the 80s, yeah, there was like really high tax rates, but like most people avoided them in different ways anyways. And so like the overall tax rate, that's why don't look at tax rates. That is really not, it's too complicated of a thing to say like, here's this tax system and here's this tax system and like what's the difference. Like you're talking about a really complicated thing. Just look at the net effects, right? What is the net government expenditures relative to the net government income? And that tells you how much money is coming in and how much money are we spending. We're spending, and you can do it as like a percentage of the GDP, right? So generally speaking, the larger that government expenditures are relative to GDP, right? That's more of the economy going to the government, okay? And you have to understand that the things that the government does are things that are generally not very productive. When I say productive, I mean things that generate growth, okay? Like they are things that are kind of like addressing things that would be negative drags on growth instead. Is generally the things that government deals with, right? Like if we didn't have roads, that would be a drag on growth, right? When we had all of the old people homeless in the streets, that was a drag on growth, right? And that's why studies generally show that things like, having unemployment insurance, having programs for the homeless and programs like Social Security are a net benefit to society. Okay, so yeah, but the larger that grows, that's money that isn't in the market and therefore can't go into growing and making businesses and all of these sorts of things, right? Okay, so what basically happened was during all of the years where the left really had a stranglehold on American politics, which it was basically all the way up to LBJ and Carter. You know, you've got Nixon in there too, but right, that's still kind of like Carter was like the end of the liberal dominance, right? And then after that, you know, you had Bill Clinton, but he was a different type of liberal, essentially. Okay, and then Obama kind of brought it back, but that was temporary. So what happened in the 80s then? Well, what happened was that we said government is getting too big and we need to moderate it. And so Reagan moderated. I'm having trouble with names here. I'm sorry. Reagan moderated it. Okay. Was it Roosevelt enacted Social Security? Then what was it that Wilson did? Was Wilson Medicare? I don't remember. Okay. I'm losing my train of thought, but I'm still on here. Why did the widening income discrepancy in the classes begin? Okay. The thing that you gotta understand is that the left is very, very much wedded to making government bigger. You know, like it's kind of like a self-reinforcing cycle. Like at first they're socialists. They kind of technically, or at least the far left, really they just want socialism, if not outright communism. And so they favor government programs. And then when you create all of these government programs, then you kind of create this special interest group that wants to increase the amount of money going to the government, because they're either working for the government or they're working for companies that work for the government, right? And are getting contracts and stuff like that, right? And so then you have this whole group of people that they want to make the government as large as possible. And so they love to talk about taxes because they want more money going to the federal government. And so they will tell you that everything comes down to tax policy. Guys, income discrepancy is not happening because they're not taxing the rich. Like this idea that like, okay, these people are making so much money, so what we're going to do is we're going to fix the problem by taking their money out after the fact, like makes absolutely no sense. It's like somebody just cut your arm off, so what you need to do is take pain medications. Yeah, but like maybe don't cut your arm off first, like seriously, you have to address like the actual like change. So what was the actual change that happened in the 80s? Well, the actual change that happened in the 80s was more the approach to markets, right? It was that because of globalization, the work that CEOs and people in the boardrooms were doing ended up having more value, and the work that the working class was doing ended up having less value because there's more competition from abroad, you see? And there was also kind of this shift during the Reagan years where like markets became digital. We like the role that the stock market started to play in society was very different after the 80s. Okay? And that's what changed. Okay, that's why you're seeing the income discrepancy, because the huge inefficiency that you have in the market, I'm not sure if you would necessarily call it an inefficiency, but the huge bias that you get in the market is that the market favors who already has capital. So the people that already have capital, they will accumulate more and more, and the people that don't have enough capital to invest in the market will do worse and worse. You can look at this through this whole thing. Those of us that had houses, that had money in the stock market, etc., we're doing pretty good. I got laid off in September, the end of September. I've been going just fine on unemployment, and if I were to get another job this month, I would be perfectly fine, and I'd still have all of my savings, and I would still be doing really, really well compared to most Americans, primarily because I already have the assets, right? So I can weather tough times in a way that most people cannot. That's what changed. It wasn't taxes. They just want you to focus on taxes because they want more money. But that's not what changed. What changed was our approach to the markets. And that was not necessarily all Reagan's fault. I mean, yes, Reagan did some things, right? Like, they changed some rules. There were some things about the way that the markets worked that changed and everything. But personally, I really think that it was the digitization of markets, the globalization, and the globalization of financial markets as well. And all of those things kind of combined is kind of what led us onto this path of widening wealth discrepancy. And what has happened is we just continue to ignore it. Like, instead of striking at the heart of that issue, the politicians just say, oh, well, you need to tax them more. Which, when the politicians say that, what they're really telling you is, we don't want to fix income inequality. We just want our piece of it, right? So that's that they benefit from the government having more money. And shouldn't the problem be, maybe, why are those people able to accumulate so much money in the first place? As an example, CEOs, they get paid way too much. Frankly, I think they do. I think that there are a lot of CEOs in corporate America. Not all CEOs. Most CEOs actually only make $1 million or whatever. Okay, but there are some that they just make absolutely insane amounts of money. And is that amount of compensation really justified? I really don't think that it is. I really think that if investors really had the power in the boardroom and in shareholder meetings and everything, that CEOs wouldn't get paid that much. That the shareholders would say, no, like, that's our money and we're only going to pay you what we have to. Right? But the dynamics of the world are such that those people in those positions enjoy a large amount of leverage, and those people in the working class have zero leverage. Because what happened was that the government came along and said, oh, everybody's just going to skill up. We're not going to have a working class anymore. Just dumb idea. Not everybody is built to be a workplace drone. They're just not. You have to have working class jobs in a healthy economy. In my opinion, that's just the way people are. So you have to make your working class competitive. Okay, this is all really important to understand, because then we have to get to solutions. Because frankly, you can't allow the working class in the United States to just completely get screwed over for decade after decade. They're just not going to put up with that forever. And what has happened is these people have figured it out, right? Like, the working class might not understand all of the nuances of trade policy and tax policy and macroeconomics and all of these things to explain what's going on to you and perhaps the way that I am doing to you right now. But what they know is that they've been screwed over, and that the Democrats are been the ones that have been in power for most of it, right? Like when we got to at the end of the 2008 crisis, that was, I think, when that group of people first started to say, hey, we kind of think that we're getting the raw deal here. And Obama, he spoke to all of these high ideals about, well, here are the problems in our society and we need to move over and Okay, so they put Obama in charge, and then what happened? Their plight got worse. And so it took a few tries and everything, but they've kind of figured out that the left, at the very least, is not interested in solving the problem for them, right? And that has brought us to where we are in world politics now, is the working class pushing back against the neoliberal globalist world order. That's literally what it is, right? APOL says that's why we opened our borders. Yeah, all these people are kind of realizing, like, yeah, H-1B visas kind of reduces my pay. Do we actually need a whole lot of H-1B visas when we're having a white collar recession right now? I think that you do kind of need the H. So I was just thinking about, like, okay, so like I have a guy that's video editing, and I don't know if that will be like a long-term thing or what. He might not be able to do it forever. But like, let's say that it all worked out and I wanted to bring him over here. I would have to use an H-1B visa, right? But that's one where, like, we already have an existing relationship, right? But the program is totally being abused, and white collar salaries are probably about 2.5% less than they otherwise would be without the H-1B visa program, right? Okay, I feel like there was another point I was going to make there, but let's just leave that for a second and come back to your comments. Root cause on that one is inflation versus laborers' bargaining power. Well, the big issue with inflation is that nobody votes for inflation, right? To some extent, inflation is kind of an issue that is going to happen. And the economy works better with a little bit of inflation baked in there, right? But like the things that happened after COVID, that was totally the politicians going, well, we're going to do what we think is best for us. And, you know, you all can deal with the inflation afterwards. Like at the time, I remember talking about it on this stream, especially when Biden was doing things. Like, we thought it was crazy when it was under Trump, and then Biden started doing things. I'm like, did they not care? Do they just not believe that the inflation is going to happen? And now I realize that they didn't really take it seriously because they're not really harmed by inflation anyways. Okay. We're talking wage discrepancy, not income discrepancy. CEO level management salaries versus middle class capital investing. Well, but it does, and it totally does though, right? Like, the reason that the upper class is able to make as much money as they do is because the dominance of the financial market in our society now, and the leverage that they have over the financial market due to their existing holdings. So you get all of these people, you think that the people at the boardroom, that they're smarter than you. I think everybody kind of makes these assumptions and stuff. Well, maybe they went to the business school, so they might understand the business better than you, but they're not necessarily smarter than you. And there's a lot of people out there that enjoying positions of great wealth that aren't really contributing anything to society, right? But they've got this negotiating power in the markets because of their existing holdings that the working class doesn't, because the working class is having all of their jobs sent around overseas. Now, there's another part to that. There's another part to this that I haven't explained, which is that part of the neoliberal world order has been the United States is essentially protector of the world. And when that happens, the US dollar is like the safe haven asset for everyone, right? And that makes the US dollar substantially more valuable than it otherwise would be. And the dollar is so valuable that it basically becomes impossible to manufacture anything in the United States and be competitive in a global world. So how do you solve that? Tariffs? I don't know. We'll see how that works out. But I think that you probably have to make a bunch of other changes, right? and kind of at the heart of all of this is the real lie that you're being told that's holding everything back is this idea that the market is perfect, right? The market is perfectly efficient. That means the CEO, he makes a decision. The market likes that decision. That was the correct decision. And now all of a sudden you can't argue with it, right? You can't sit down and say, well, yeah, except for that these CEOs are doing something that is basically only benefits them and hurts all of their workers. Is that okay? Shouldn't we be going in and, buying all of the shares of that and going to the shareholder meeting and saying, no, you can't do that and stopping that? Or maybe creating laws to prevent them from doing those sorts of things? There's really should companies be able to buy back their own shares using debt? I really don't think that they should. I don't know if you should be able to buy your own shares at all. But there's no way that you're going to change it because the market loves it. And the market is perfectly efficient. So if the market loves it, that must be the right thing to do, right? You can't question it. That's the thing that's preventing you from seeing the change in the United States that you want. That's why it almost doesn't matter who you vote for, because they all believe this false idea that the market is perfectly efficient. They either believe the lie or they're a communist, right? So you're not going to get somebody that's actually going to solve the problem. Who's advocating those visas? Elon Musk. Trump will bow to Elon's will. We'll see. Okay. The funny thing about the H-1B visa issue is that nobody is proposing changing it. There's not some law on the docket or a potential presidential executive action that changes how the H-1B visa issue works, right? So Elon Musk is arguing about it primarily because it's an issue that he's passionate about for whatever reason, right? So you kind of have to start to look at things like, the way that incentives warp people's opinions and views of things, right? From Elon Musk's perspective, the big thing that's preventing his business from growing is being able to find people that want to work for him under the pay and conditions that they're offering. And so, of course, being able to pick people up from H-1B visas to work for him, it helps him grow his company, right? And then again, they have this idea that the market is perfectly efficient. So whatever they can do that increases their profits and their stock price is the best thing for society as a whole. And that's how he's able to justify this thing that is pretty explicitly against the best interests of the majority of the Republican base, right? And the Republican base, they've figured this out and they're going to fight him on it, right? Well, but again, the reason it's funny is because Elon Musk doesn't need to argue about it, right? He has basically squandered all of the political goodwill that he had amongst the Republican base with this one thing. Now nobody likes him. But you know what? I really think that what it is Elon Musk is autistic. For some reason, when I say people, because I made this comment on a Reddit thread the other day and I got downvoted really hard, but he says that he's autistic. He displays in everything about his mannerism, the things that he's interested in, the way that he talks, the things that he talks about. It's all autism, man. I say, you know what, to me is the dead giveaway that it's autism? Is that the individuals with autism have a very difficult time controlling their emotions. They don't have the same kind of executive control that normal people have. So you get this person that it is like arguing with you about something, and it seems like they're really focused and logical about it, but then they're bringing up pieces of information that aren't really directly relevant to the issue at hand, but it's like they're trying to broaden the range to maybe kind of help their argument. And then all of a sudden they're just like, they start spewing vitriol, right? And that's what Elon Musk does, is like, they're arguing really hard at first, and then it seems like he's kind of starting to wander or maybe like changing the subject, and then all of a sudden he just starts insulting people and banning and using swear words and stuff out of nowhere, and you're like, what the heck is going on? I'm telling you, that's autism. A lot of people say, hell, he's narcissistic. No. The narcissistic person does not spew the vitriol out like that. The narcissistic person is so obsessed with the way that other people perceive them, they would never in a million years ever say something publicly that would portray them in that kind of a negative light, like swearing in public and so forth. Okay? He's not a narcissist, he's autistic. That's what's going on there. So, will he affect Donald Trump's policy to increase H1? Well, nobody is changing it, so probably doesn't actually matter. There you go. BS says asset, ownership, and connections. Exactly. You're not the lower and middle classes are not increasing their wealth at the same pace that the upper class is, because they don't have the assets and connections to do it. And we have created a world economy where assets and connections are basically all that matters. Which just tells you, like, if you want to become rich, that's what you should focus on. I think that a lot of people have this idea that they're going to come in and they're going to become rich from trading or day trading. No, you're not. If you're poor, then all day trading is going to do is make you more poor. Okay? If you're rich, you can trade some size and it can be a wealth enhancer. But you have to have the assets to begin with. So what you should really be focusing on is owning assets and developing connections with other people. Yes. You know, I'm still kind of stuck up on Woodrow Wilson, and I'm trying to remember what the programs were that he put in place. Federal Reserve came out during his term. Oh yeah, he was also prohibition, wasn't he? thought that Woodrow Wilson did have a social program. It was like the first of those social programs. So, but it was not. You're right. It wasn't Social Security or Medicare. Probably the reason why a lot of conservatives don't like Woodrow Wilson is because of the Federal Reserve. It's kind of funny, like, conservatism often ends up being opposing the most recent change in society of sorts, right? And, you know, how far back you're going to go just kind of depends on the issue. So when it comes to, like, monetary policy, right, they want to go back to the gold standard. Much further back than where they want to go for, like, different social issues, right? So everybody says, oh, conservatives, they just want to go back to 1950. But when they're talking about monetary policy, they want to go all the way back to before 1920, right? All of this because we were talking about Jimmy Carter, right? 'Cause the main point that I was trying to make was you have to understand that, like, the liberal left-leaning Democrat Party was basically in charge all the way up until Carter, and then it was kind of been mixed, and it's taken us to this point for people to, like, actually kind of switch sides and decide, see what really actually aligns with their incentives. Now you're going to see these people that have been hurt by the neoliberal world order are really going to take a try at shifting the world. We'll see how well they do with it, because it's you know, like Trump's first term, I don't know if he had that much success with it. And plus, there was a lot of other places in the world that were still very liberal, right? Now you have a setup where the conservatives have taken over everywhere. We control the presidency, the House, and the judiciary. So, and well, technically the Senate too, I guess. So, but very, very narrow majorities in Congress. But so we basically control all three branches of government in the United States, right? It looks like in France that Marie Le Pen will win the next time that they have a thing, although we'll see if they're able to, like, play a spoiler again. Over in the UK, well, the left recently has kind of taken charge, but they have bungled that so quickly that that's not going to last very long. In Canada, it's shifting over, right? Like, now you're really actually have people in power in multiple countries that can work together to try and shift the global world order, right? Okay. So now that we understand the development in politics and the whole way that this has been going, what does that mean for us? What kind of policies are they going to enact, and how is it going to go through? Well, the one that everybody hears about is tariffs, right? But right now, the thing that the market is wrestling with is, will Trump actually impose these across the board tariffs? Because his financial advisors are kind of saying he's not. And he's denying it, but now the market is kind of saying, well, we believe the anonymous sources in the Washington Post and not Donald Trump. But the one that I don't hear people talk about, that it seems like that the market is kind of out of line with, so I'm just trying to warn you, in Trump's ideal world, the dollar is significantly less valuable than it is today. Okay, did you catch that? In order to manufacture, to jumpstart manufacturing in the United States again and build up the working class in the United States again, you need a weaker dollar. It's unavoidable. So right now the dollar is really, really strong. I think that and Donald Trump winning has kind of made the dollar stronger, but I think the play is short the dollar in the longer run. Like if I was going to hold it for 10 years, I think I'd be short the dollar. Gold standard in today's world that where made-up cryptocurrency backed by nothing is all the rage. Yeah. Well, yeah, a lot of conservatives are jumping on board the cryptocurrency bandwagon too, right? But I don't really feel like that anybody in the cryptocurrency world understands what's going on or the consequences of what they're supporting, so. They started funding the woke thing last time. Public sentiment went this way. It's so interesting though, BS, because that's like a completely different issue from what we've talked about. But it definitely has played a major factor in the downfall of left-wing parties in the Western world, hasn't it? To me, the whole woke thing is just kind of evidence that what has essentially happened was power became too concentrated in one side, essentially. Like the left enjoyed power for too long, and the dynamics are such that the party starts to atrophy. And, slowly but surely, certain ideas will kind of come in. And because you start to enjoy power for the sake of power, which is to say that, like, there's a certain point at which, the left is winning, not necessarily because they have better policies or that they're more in line with the majority of people, but because they already have power and they leverage that power to influence the public to vote for them in the future, right? Basically, the power becomes entrenched, right? And when it's entrenched long enough, then these diseases start to come out, right? These stupid ideas that are promoted by these people, not because of merit, but they're there and it makes them feel good or whatever, right? And that's where I think that a lot of the wokeness has come from. And it seems to me like the Western society is, by and large, is rejecting it. And not necessarily because they disagree with it philosophically either. I mean, I would that kind of bothers me that it's not like people are saying, oh, I really don't think that we should be cutting the genitals of children off. I really don't think that we should be hiring people based on their race rather than their merit for the job. Not that hiring is completely merit-based anyways, but I digress. No, it's because they're noticing that it makes you weaker, right? Like that this DEI thing is associated with weakness across the board, that like all these people that are pushing it are incompetent, and yeah, right, that's why they're rejecting it. Right? So wokeness is just another symptom of the rotting globalist liberal world order. But the point that I got to make is always here is one, okay, so what has happened in our understanding of that? What does that tell us about what is likely to happen next? And then number two, understanding that the kind of the linchpin of all of this is this idea that the market is perfectly efficient. If you pull out that the market is perfectly efficient, like almost all of their ideas about the economy fall apart, and they have to completely start from scratch. And I really think that that's kind of what we have to do is we have to admit that the market is not perfectly efficient, and deal with the consequences of that. Like, it's just not fair to people, especially, man, in the economy that we've got right now. You come in and you say, well, the market is perfectly efficient, so if you're not getting hired right now, if you're out of work right now, it's because the market has deemed you as not up to snuff. And that's nonsense. That's not the way that it works. Companies lay off really good workers all the time. And then you've been laid off, and then other companies might be like, well, I don't want to hire somebody that got fired. I want to hire somebody that's still working at another company, right? And then it becomes these self-reinforcing patterns, right? You've got this massive number of people that are white-collar workers, can do good work, basically being told that they're worthless to society right now. That's not a healthy thing for our society, right? So what do we have to do? We have to admit that the market's not perfectly efficient. A lot of people get jobs because they have connections, or because they have the right things in their resume that don't actually matter to the performance of the job, and that we don't really have very good ways of measuring how effective you are in your job, right? And maybe once we recognize that, maybe we kind of shift things around, right? Like once we understand that the market's not perfectly efficient, we can drop this endless obsession with like performance reviews that are completely flawed and stupid, and work more on how can we create the most positive, productive work environment that we can, so that people feel like that they are contributing, so that people feel like that they are doing something valuable, and so that people feel like they are valued. Because nobody feels like that they are valued in this economy today, right? So really, truly, almost all of these issues that, especially you guys on the left, that really bother you about like our modern day iteration of capitalism, all stem from the false notion that the market is perfectly efficient. Have to hit on that, because that is the main thing that I'm trying to get across to people. So that the establishment world is completely invested in this idea that the market is perfectly efficient, and all of the empirical evidence that we have says that is false. And we are ignoring new fields of economics and new innovations and ways of making the world better. We're completely ignoring them because it doesn't fit in with this notion that the market is perfect. Let's see here. Oh, we got a minute left. Okay, so now it's time to lock in. We're seeing the liquidity polling here. And just note here that the ISM Services PMI, we're looking for a reading of 53.5. And the JOLTS, we're looking for a reading of 7.74 million, which is in line with the previous reading of 7.74. I'm going to take a guess. I think that JOLTS will actually maybe be a little bit higher than anticipated. So I suppose that if I really wanted to gamble on it, I should take a short. But there could be a lot of room for nuance in this reading here. Let's just see how this goes, because the ISM services, prices paid, and employment, those are going to matter too. Okay. All right. I should have taken it, huh? Okay, so JOLTS was 8 8.098 million versus the reading of 7.74 million. And sorry, where did ISM go here? ISM services PMI 54.1 versus 53.5. Employment in line with expectations 51.4. Prices paid quite a bit higher than anticipated, 64.4 versus an expected 57.5. Okay, so first of all, I would say that the degree of the move that we just got there, I think, is perfectly in line with the news that we got. In fact, there might even be a little bit more in it. Although, can it actually sustain that? It's rough. I don't like having to make a decision point here because they pushed down and immediately started creating a liquidity hole. So no trade for me, unfortunately. I should have taken the trade on I think I know what the numbers are going to be and gone short, huh? Well, let's see here. And it is pretty much everything across the board. I'm not really seeing oil react to this. Oil is up 1% today, is the biggest winner. But pretty much everything, gold, currencies, etc., they're all dropping here, and the dollar is rising again. And what does that take us to in interest rates? 4.66? I don't know, guys. Dude, the S&P 500 is really taking this hard. I would kind of like it to take a trade here. Is it not taking one because? Let's see here. Like the trend is falling. And R2 is rising. Oh, no, wait, no, I don't have, I was like, did it take one? No, that's from yesterday. I feel like that it should be taking a trade here. I'm not quite sure. R2 is rising, right? So come here. R2 is rising. So then a cross below with the trend falling. And we're already flat. Should enter with a short. Unless, let's see here, what else could it be? Oh, it's saying it's too hot? Let's change this a little bit. Still building volume there, but it looks awfully heavy. Well, it was saying it was too hot on 03, but not on today. You're looking for the hero trait on that one, Octavius? Oh, man. Okay, it did go a little bit lower. See, on this one, I do kind of feel like it should go. It could go a little bit lower. Like, I think that the flows will probably be net sell. It's just I don't like the location tactically because of the liquidity hole. So it's kind of like frustrating. It's like you kind of missed that one. Long. What did I call it? Oh, I didn't call it, just log. Log out. Just gonna do all these parts right here. Let's do it like this. I know this seems like a little bit really verbose, but because it could be flat. Having gut issues this morning. I haven't been able to eat a bran muffin. Ampersand, what are you talking about, Christy? I'm not sure I understand what your question. One of the things that I have here is I want all of these conditions to be true in order for it to enter into a thing, and I have like a and true at the end so that I can just comment these lines out if I want to. That's what that's about. And I put them on different lines. Yeah. For formatting and easy modification. You know, if I really care, I will make it, I will make some sort of a method or something that allows me to, like, put booleans in it and, like, curve fit and everything, but sometimes it's, like, not worth doing that, so yeah. Yes, so this over here, I think I need to disable it. Log debug enabled. Okay. Okay, so let's see what it said. R2 is rising, but trend is not rising or falling? Really? I mean, it's purple. Does that change anything if I do dot value? I don't know, that's weird. Oops. So it's still kind of exhibiting these issues from this area right here that I'm concerned about. Even though it did take a little bit of a push lower. I'm still a little bit worried about it. Spoos, on the other hand, seems like that they're just going short. Yes, redraw that. So in here, it says if is rising value. And then there's another nested if statement to just say, color it by the slope. And then if it is, then do the uptrend, and otherwise do the downtrend. So it is making it purple. Oh, maybe it only colors it like that if it has changed. No, that doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. What's wrong with it? I've got like a really a bug that I think I'm going to be really embarrassed about when I figure out why it's doing this. In fact, a big enough bug that I might have to go back and redo all of my testing. Sense trend, super smoother filter trend. So, small question here. No, see, every time it says rising faults, falling faults. So this one is falling. It's definitely falling. But is rising and falling thing not using the booleans correctly or something? Or the series correctly? I'm really... So weird. There must be something wrong with this data series in some way that I don't understand. That still doesn't make much sense. Ha. but it says is when it does it with is rising. Oh, right here is falling. Oh, see, there you go. Maybe my debug statements are just wrong. S&P is recovering. Treasuries have returned back to that 07 area. Okay. So then, coming back to this, is rising trend, is falling. Rising trend, is falling. Oops, let me retry that.
Order submitted.
Aha. Wait, it said order submitted? Working. Aha. So why? Wait until flat. So maybe it was because I started it. I see. So what happened was when I started the strategy, it was supposed to be in a position, and it was waiting until it was gotten out. That's why it did that. Okay. See, and now I'm embarrassed. Why I didn't realize that that's what was going on. But. It thinks that it should be short from 6072. What? No. Because we haven't even seen that.
Order canceled.
See, it says it's long, but that doesn't make no sense.
Order submitted.
Oh, wait. Oh. See, it's not in a position. I think that it's saying that it should be long. Wait, do I have this set up over here to show text and marker? Isn't there a way to make it show you historical? Count, calculate, label, start behavior. There was some way to turn on the historical.
Order canceled.
Okay. Guess I just wait. Seems so. I think that from that whole thing, that I think that my back test is still correct, even though, you know, there's like curving and all those issues. Like I wouldn't run this, but I think that it's just not running quite the way that I expected because I didn't start it at the right time. Because it's waiting for a fill, essentially. On this, now that's kind of an interesting thing I've never realized. Because I tell it to wait for you to be flat, it won't, it will hold this thing until it hits the stopper, the target, essentially. Oh, see, now it takes the stop loss. There you go. I see. I see. So it's saying that I was supposed to go long all the way back here, and it wouldn't hit the stop loss until it got to there. Yes. Okay, so that's probably effective for, like, our back test. But if I'm only trading it during this certain time, that's not going to work at all. But can I come back in here? I think I can. So let's disable it for a second. And I am not managing time. But if I tell it to manage time, does that change where it would have potentially have gotten in? Yes. Better. That will at least make it trade more like, I won't be looking at it being like, why is it not trading? Nah, 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 nah. Anyways. But maybe we want to do this other one. Maybe I don't want something that swings such long ones, right? 10 times 10 times 1,000. Okay. I think, so now that I'm thinking about this, I come back, where's my editor? The original one, I was doing 0.2 and 0.4. Let's see. Slightly smaller targets, which is why it was trading a little bit more. Okay. Well, let's see how this thing that's always in the market does. I can optimize it like that. I think that along the way we have been trying those, but well, okay, so there's a little bit of a floor there in 04. I am seeing the flows turn to the short side, but it's also like it's being led by the short end, which doesn't make sense because it does look like the spread is steepening. Well, no, I take that back. Overall, it has flattened. In the 2 and 10 year, it's flattened. Well, I think we got some time here to, you know, see if I get a result on the backtest. So I will leave that, you know, let's stick around until it's done. But I'm going to take a quick break, all right? Okay, we're back. My back test is still working. It's a little over halfway done. Now, as for the treasuries, I'm still seeing a decent amount of activity. Obviously, huge imbalance on the short side. It kind of looks to me like this is something that's likely to continue to dink around in this range here for the rest of the day. Okay, so there's our ding for when we usually quit. Yeah, I'm still getting, you know, a little bit of clicky back and forth behavior that suggests that there's still some significant activity going on in the treasuries. The S&P 500 is recovering off of its worst levels, but we'll see if they're able to get back to and hold, you know, the 6,000s. Well, about also in currency land, the Japanese yen is recovering most of its losses, but the dollar is kind of a little bit separated from it. So it seems that the dollar is more following the euro right now, which is pretty. Yeah, you think the low of the day in ES or in the treasuries? You might on the treasuries. I'm not entirely sure on that, because I would say that we're around the low of the day, but there's often, like, you know, it moves to the bottom and closes at the low at the options close, right? So you can never be quite too sure with the treasuries, but I doubt that we'll see like another major move down, right? Like, if they do, it's going to be like at the end of the day, they come down to it and make another tick, right? Whereas the S&P 500, like, that's either the low of the day or we're like super duper wrong and it's going to be a really bad day, right? Because SPOOs have that tendency to like make the lows or the highs relatively early in the day and then just mean revert the rest of the day. And when it's not, those are like brutal trend days. Yeah, 6,000 is the line in the sand. Well, they just crossed that. Wouldn't say that there's like hard resistance there, at least. You know, this has been something that always kind of I just find kind of funny with ES. Is it seems to me that ES traders care more about individual levels than other traders. Like, that's just the culture there. They have a bunch of points that they're looking for, whether those are like value area highs and lows, or volume profile levels from previous days, pivots, you know, previous day high lows closes, things like that. Trend lines, like moving average lines. There's all of these like key levels that they'll look to. And yet when I watch the S&P 500, I find that it is much more random than other instruments, and that even if it does react to a level, that the levels are much more fuzzy. So why such this emphasis on levels over there in that instrument? It's never really made sense to me. Perhaps it is just that a person that is attracted to technical analysis will want to run it on the index. maybe it's just that. Oh, man. I'm still seeing a lot of stuff about Canada should become the 51st state sort of a thing. I find the whole thing really funny because, like, obviously there's no way it's going to happen, right? But at the same time, I do kind of wonder if that would be the thing that would be in the best interest of Canada right now. Like, because it does require like subsidization to run Canada the way that they are, and so it would probably be easier to just bring them in as states, right? It's almost there. You know, another thing with the treasuries here, though, is like it does kind of look like something that's going to conform to this range here, but I don't think that it would take very much to push it out the bottom. It's kind of weird that stacking at 05 there. It's like a 500 lot on and off and on again. Weird. Weird, unusual behavior I haven't seen before. Is it doing that to try and get people to think, oh, there's activity on the offer, we're gonna sell it? It's just doing it like if a 500 lots 2 ticks away. That's actually doing it both on bids and offers. Interestingly enough. Thinking about this back test, and I'm actually thinking it's not going to quite do what I want it to. It'll get out if it finds an opposite signal, so that'll be good, but it's not going to take like every little swing. Because what I would like it to do is like, or what I think would be ideal, it's probably not going to find it. Probably not going to work very well, so it's, but you know, if we're in an uptrend, I only want to take this, right? Can you get it to do that? Well, we'll see. But I would have to add exits to get it to do that. Flashing size down at evens. Well, I don't see that on like a lots of changes down there, but there is size there for sure. So maybe they do want to go for it. I don't know. In a situation like this, that size down there, I don't know. If it wasn't at 108 even, then I would kind of be like, But because it's at 108 even, you know, like I should expect there to be size down there. So now there's a little bit of size at 01 as well. So that makes me wonder, and with the way that they're touching this, it does kind of seem to me like they could very easily move lower. Oh wow, actually the results of that weren't that bad. So weird. Okay, that's what it was giving us before. Was that like if you did it on 0, it didn't work very well, but then all 4 quadrants did work. And the period on the 4-year thing doesn't really help. So this one is 60-minute period. I like that. Oops, I opened it in a whole new strategy analyzer. Save history. Go back to 2019. Oh, did they touch a new low there? They did in the 10-year. Spoos are kind of heading back down again. Well, it even survives the 5-year test, although not with a very good Sharpe ratio. Is it? Yeah, it is. That's not necessarily what you want it to look like. That's kind of weird. So it's just that last little bit there. It's overfitting to that. This thing is tough to work out to, like, because there are some parameters that I think you have to optimize, but like however you try to swing it ends up being over optimized. Well, I kind of want to do another experiment based off of that, but I will do it on my own. So I will let you guys go for now, and I will see you tomorrow. In the meantime, stay excellent.